Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine, platforms by host Barbara Arnwine Esquire, guests and supporters are their own and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal advice counsel. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Igniting Change, its platforms, or the show's host. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Igniting Change. We are so excited that you're joining us from all over the country and internationally for our show today. We are happy to have our West Coast listeners, our Midwest listeners, our Southern, you know that's right, Deep South listeners, and all the Northeast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We got a great show for you today because we're talking about the challenges facing young voters in 2024. Every one of our guests are millennials, but really they're all Gen Zers. And they will be giving and providing to you their perspectives on what we can expect in 2024, what they're doing about it, how others can get involved. So saying that, I got to bring on my mighty, mighty co-host. You know I'm talking about the one and only leader of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition, one of the boldest, most creative, most innovative people in this world. I'm talking about none other than Daryl D. Jones, Esquire. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara. Good afternoon. It must be Tuesday. It must be noon Eastern Standard Time because it's time to talk about igniting change.
Hey.
Goodness, Barbara. As we come into 2024, there is so much change that needs to be ignited across this country so that we can really reach that goal of being a true democracy, of being really represented across racial lines, represented across all multicultural lines. Barbara, there's so much to talk about, and no one better to lead the way than our Gen Zs and young millennials. I can barely wait to get into this conversation, Barbara.
That's right. And everybody, we're so excited about this conversation because the deadline for people to apply to be part of our next Gen Z and Millennial Votes Matters Leadership Training is January the 26th. That's an all-expenses-paid trip to Phoenix, Arizona, where we will be having an intense classroom-style training for over 4 days, and we will be also, Daryl, being part of the HBCU All-Stars, right?
Oh, absolutely, Barbara. It's going to be such an exciting time. And, you know, Barbara, when we say all expenses paid, we mean all expenses paid. You know, all you have to do is show up at the airport. We're going to cover the airfare. We're going to fly you into Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to cover the hotel costs. We're going to cover your meals. We're going to cover your transportation from the airport to the hotel in Phoenix. It's all expenses paid. The biggest investment that we ask from those that are selected is that they bring their willingness to learn and their passion for activism to be involved in the election process, Barbara.
Right, and you should know that you got to be ages 18 through 35. No fakers now. 18 to 35. Don't be writing me talking about you young at heart, you 70 years old. No, 18 to 35 is the age limit. And, Daryl, we didn't say the other big news. You get a cash stipend at the end. So all of this is our commitment to our future, to the beauty of our young, present, amazing Gen Z and millennial leaders. With that said, Daryl, let's get into the show. The most important thing we want everyone to know is that all of our leaders today are amazing people. I want to start off by welcoming to the show for the first time, I hope she's on the line, Webertline Dorlus. She is a Transformative Justice Coalition Fellow. She was class of September 2023. She works as an educator, and she's a student at the University of Florida pursuing an MBA. Hi, Webertline.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
All right now. It's so great to have you on the show today. And you're being joined by Jovan Mickens, who is a Transformative Justice Coalition Fellow, class of September 2023, graduate of Florida A&M. During his last semester, he followed the format of our training and held a nonpartisan training on his own campus. Daryl, did you hear that? So I am just so happy to welcome Jovan. Hi, Jovan.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing great now that you're on the show. It's wonderful to have you today. And we want to, start off with a couple of questions. Daryl, you want to kick it off?
Oh, sure. So, Webertline, Happy New Year to both of you. We hope that you had a great New Year. And let's go in deep. What are you expecting in 2024, Webertline? What are your expectations about what's going to be happening with voting rights? What's going to be happening with issues dealing with Gen Zs and young millennials this election season?
Awesome question. I definitely feel like they are going to make it harder for Gen Z and millennials to vote because in this 2024 election, 41 million of Gen Z, just Gen Z alone, will be eligible to vote. So with that number increasing, and Gen Z and millennials has been the main ones at the polls. I'm talking about we're after change, we're creating change, and they're not okay with that. So what they have been doing is closing off the polls at college campuses, removing them, telling them they are not eligible to vote on a college campus. They're telling them that their address is not updated. They're finding new excuses to unqualify them from voting.
Wow. That says so much. Joe, I want to ask the same question of you, Jovan.
Yeah, I definitely want to add on to what she was saying. With me attending Florida A&M for a couple of years and being just a couple blocks away from the Florida Capitol, they're definitely making it hard for us young voters. They're saying that our vote doesn't matter. They believe that we don't have the grit or the understanding of what's going on a couple blocks away from us. So definitely, I believe the biggest issues that we have is make sure that people are being educated, that people are being empowered as well, to make sure that their voices are being heard at the ballot.
All right now. And what I love about the two of you is you're not just talking, you're doing the work. So why don't you tell people, Webertline, what have you been doing to make sure that our voters are able to vote and that they're motivated, inspired to vote? They're talking about how nobody wants to vote this election 2024. That's not what I'm hearing, but tell people what you've been up to.
I am also a student at Johns Hopkins University pursuing a Master's of Arts in Government. So what I've been doing is I've been educating the community everything about bills and statutes and make them understand exactly what's on the ballot, because that's one thing that many people do not know when it comes to 2024 election. And they know about the presidential election, but they're not well educated on everything else. So what I have been doing is breaking it down, working with NAACP, making sure that I'm using my platform as a voice and educating everyone despite their age to inform everyone, putting it in different languages. I am also a Haitian Creole speaker, so I have been translating everything into Creole just so people that are from Haiti or Guadeloupe or anything that speaks Haitian or any culture that speaks Haitian Creole, they are well educated as well of everything that's going on in the country, so they are not excluded.
Wow.
And, Jovan, as you mentioned, you're over there at FAMU, part of that Marching 100 band y'all got. But you're also close to Tallahassee, to the capital there in Florida. And we know that, what's been happening in Florida. We were down there, in June for Juneteenth with the rolling bus protests. talking about the banned books that are going on in the state of Florida, all the stuff they're doing with diversity, equity, and inclusion, trying to cancel out the culture of African American history being taught down there. What has been the response of the Gen Zs, the students that are there in Florida, to these actions that have been brought forward? Are they responding, or are they just sitting back, letting it happen?
Yeah, I would say the students at Florida A&M, even at Florida State and the community colleges locally, we are not just sitting back. We are protesting. We're trying to make sure that we're at the steps of the Capitol. We're hosting panel discussions. We're trying to host voter registration drives and try to educate folks on what's going on because, like I said before, we're a couple blocks away, and it's happening right in our faces, and they're making decisions at the table, and we're not at the table. So we're definitely frustrated on what's going on because we believe that there's a government that doesn't represent us all the way. And, so we're definitely fighting. So we're not sitting idle, I'll say.
Wow. And Webertline, you joined the Communications Committee of the Transformative Justice Coalition and all our amazing partners. And what we've been working on is addressing the horrible opinion of the Federal Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit, saying that private groups and individuals cannot sue under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, saying that even if you're injured, somebody says you're black, you can't vote, that you can't use the Voting Rights Act to sue. So you have joined that committee to make sure that people know about it. Tell us more about being a member of that committee. Why did you join? Why is this issue so important to you?
I joined for multiple reasons. I definitely feel like there is no distance when it comes to outreach. I feel like the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that has been taking place, I feel like in today's society, I see us going back into the modern Jim Crow law, trying to mute the voices of people who are trying to be heard, where they're basically saying that because of the color of your skin, you're unable to vote. However, we did pass an amendment years ago that allowed black people to vote. However, when black people were given the rights to vote, they were told that they had to pass the gumball test. They were told that they had to pass a literacy test. There were many barriers that came across them so they would not be able to vote. And I feel like that is the same thing that's going on today, where black people, African Americans, are unable to vote, and they're being disqualified and being disenfranchised from voting. Because I live in Florida. Florida is the top state for felony disenfranchisement, and I feel like despite us fighting and saying all that we need to say, they are trying to implement more things across the country to avoid black people from voting, such as Arkansas.
Wow. And Jovan, had you heard about this Eighth Circuit opinion? Because your Attorney General had the nerve to file an amicus brief saying this should be the law of the land, of the whole nation, that if you were discriminated against in voting, that you cannot sue personally.
Yeah, it's actually, personally, I just got done with graduating and everything, so I did not hear about this personally. I'm just not hearing about this for the first time. And this sound like something that our government in Florida would do. It is kind of sickening because what we're dealing with, I believe there was a young lady, I believe she was within her 70s. They said that her voting registration was invalid, and she's been voting in the same place for years, many years, generations, I'll say. So definitely there's a lot of discrepancies that's happening, and I definitely, I'm going to do more research after hearing this.
All right now. And Daryl, we have a new format today. There are no commercial breaks anymore on our show. And so I am, very happy to have you bring up the second segment of our show. We got a whole new operation, and we gain some minutes here to go deeper into our show. Daryl.
Oh, absolutely, Barbara. Jovan, as we continue this conversation, about the impact of young voters and the impact that young voters will have on this election, and particularly this election series. Are there particular issues that you see that will drive young voters to the polls?
Yeah, definitely. The Florida legislature is going to